welcome you in to a Friday edition of NFL Live. We're getting really close to the Super Bowl, y'all. We got Marcus Spears, Mina Kimes, Ryan Clark, Dan Orlovsky. There's the wave. That means we can get going. And this was a really close MVP race. Stafford and May separated by just 5 points. It's points, not votes, but very close. Dan, did they get it right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of these guys was going to win, and we were all going to say, yeah, and then one guy was going to finish in second place. I want to say lose and be like, well, they're going to be disappointed. Both had unbelievable seasons. I think Drake May's going to go into next year and be one of the heavy favorites to get back to, very much so being in the conversation. The quality of throws that Stafford made on a week-to-week basis, I think that was a real determining factor. Laura, you talked about it. Single-digit points differential. I think it's one of the closest of all time. But, yeah, I think Matthew was the deserving winner. Drake May's season was sensational.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I don't think you go wrong as long as you're not the guy that votes for somebody else when it comes to the MVP. I mean, Matthew Stafford had an amazing season. Drake May did as well. I think what this does for Matthew Stafford, though, it puts him in some of those all-time great conversations. People like Drew Brees, who was obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer and deserved to be so. He never won an MVP. It says that for a year, Matthew Stafford was the best player in the entire world at America's most important sport. Well earned, well deserved, and look forward to seeing him next year.
One vote difference, I think, captures just how hard it is with MVP because you're considering value, dominance, the team, all of it. And I think they were both similar to last year with Josh Allen, Lamar. Those were also two deserving candidates. But if I'm a Rams fan, I'm not thinking about MVP. I'm thinking about him talking about how he's coming back. And you remember last season they had some contract drama. That would put me in a very good headspace because this should be a dominant team next year.
Yeah, I was indifferent on him or May. I thought they both could deserve it. I was on First Take this morning with Cam Newton, and I think he made the best point. The fact that Matthew Stafford is still one of the old school, technically, quarterbacks that was able to win an MVP by managing the pocket, being accurate with throws, and putting the ball where it needed to be. So kind of an old school MVP with these gaudy numbers. Congrats, man.
I know we need to move on. Dan does this all the time. Seeing Kyron Williams and Sean McVay's face when he decided or when he announced that he was coming back, said all you need to know about his value to that team and what the person means to the locker room.
I'm glad you said that. Some more good news for the Rams, potentially new on NFL Live. Adam Schefter, of course, reporting this. Stafford lost his OC, Mike LaFleur, to a head coaching job. Adam says with Peter Schrager that Kliff Kingsbury will be on McVay's staff in L.A. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. All right, so May didn't win MVP as we turn our attention to the Patriots, but he did lead the NFL with a 77 total QBR during the regular season, but he's lost 26 points off that total during the postseason. The story's been the sacks, right? He's taken 5 sacks in all 3 playoff games, but he's actually getting pressured at a lower rate than he did during the regular season, and the off-target rate has nearly doubled in the postseason. Marcus, what's the single most important thing for Drake May in this game on Sunday?
When he sees it, let it fly, okay? The accuracy, you talked about layering the football in these zone coverages. And at some point in this game, Drake May is going to have to, with his legs, make the Seattle Seahawks pay for pressure. And I'm talking about one of those situations where he breaks a tackle or somebody gets out of their lane and alley and he goes. This is going to be about explosive plays for the New England Patriots. And I think he's going to have to be the catalyst for that, obviously with his arms, but his legs, when he catches them in pressure, that is when I think he can devastate in opportunities from an offense.
I love the accuracy standpoint. The word I've used is precision all week. I think if you're New England, Josh McDaniels, Drake May, you have to get Mike McDonald to blitz. If you can get him to blitz, that's not where they want to be. They want to play in that 4-man front, 7 guys in coverage and play in shell. Once you get him to blitz, it's like, all right, you got a little doubt going on in his mind. How do they do that? First of all, I do believe 6 offensive lineman run game is a big part of this because you just want to try and chip away a little bit of times at that. There was moments when last week Seattle, LA did their 3 tight end grouping. Something out of that. The second thing is you got to throw out of 11 personnel. And I know this is the final play of the game, but 11 personnel with how New England operates has been a big deal. And then you're going to get 3 opportunities in this game for Drake May. Marcus, you talk about the explosives. You got to make them. You're not going to beat this defense unless you make them. But the key has got to be you got to get McDonald to think, this isn't working, I got to send pressure.
Yep.
Once you get him there, then he's off his kind of ideal balance.
So I think I'll agree the Seahawks defense, if not the best, one of the best in the NFL. But something that I personally found interesting when I was kind of diving into their numbers was they are the best defense in the NFL, when quarterbacks play in rhythm, meaning throwing the ball between 2.5 and 3 seconds, which is most throws. But quick game, so anything under that, they were 14th in EPA per play. And then extended plays, everything over that, they were 12th. So this kind of goes off of what you're saying.
Not bad, just not dominant.
No, they're still great.
Yeah.
But I really believe, and I think the fact that they're so good against quarterbacks in rhythm reflects how well coached they are, right? So either the ball's got to come out super quick, and that can be explosives too. That's not just short passes. Or Drake May has to buy time with his legs and make those explosive plays outside of structure. To me, it's like you can't live in between that for much of this game because Seattle is so well coached and so disciplined against your traditional dropback.
Yeah, and I think another thing with Mina talking about how well they play against quick game, it's because you don't have it figured out that quickly. You don't know where people are dropping. You don't know where the coverage is rotating. What will be the cloud side? What could be the quarter side? And so I do believe that those parts are confusing. But if I'm Drake May, there was a time during the middle of the season when this offense struggled, they found Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
Right? You look at games like Cincinnati, also the New York Giants, games where he was able to create big plays. Against Cincinnati, he had a big play of 36 yards. The next game, 28. Even in the playoffs against the Chargers, when they needed to get a shot down the field, they have found Hunter Henry on the corner. Can you attack some of these linebackers and use the middle of the field if you're Drake May by getting him the football and also using Travion Henderson and using Ramondre Stevenson, especially late in downs where you can get the football, maybe the zone coverage is pushed back, and now you get yards after catch.
I'm testing him in Warrior coverage on that angle.
Early
I
on.
would, regardless, because I think as great as he's been, he's better in run defense than he is in coverage.
Ankle.
But yeah, you have seen teams go after him early in games using their tight ends.
What's the adjustment defensively if New England starts coming out and it's like a quick hitter, a quick game, a screen, something like that? Is it settle? Is it what's the adjustment?
I think early it's patience.
Yep.
Right? Early, it's patience because when you start this game, it's one, how is Nick Eamon-Warren? How are we calling this defense around his injury? There's also the anxiousness, right? The nerves that you start this game out. You don't want to allow that as a coach to get you to change from what has helped you get to where you are. If they get off early, you let them, you tackle, you play red zone defense, you talk about it on the sideline. Now, if this continues in the game, it's how much man can you play and how comfortable
And we all talk
in it.
about the script at the beginning of the game. One of the big things we used to talk about on defense in Dallas was disrupt it. Disrupt the script. Try to get them off kilter early to get them going to things that they didn't necessarily want to get to until later parts of the game. That's going to be super important for Seattle, too. You don't want New England to ever feel comfortable
in rhythm
in this game.
You know, even when things have gotten out of rhythm for Drake May and this Patriots offense, they've found ways to hold on and still win, but it hasn't been necessarily the smoothest for him as 51 QBR in this postseason, in the Super Bowl, the lowest by
in a game in the NFC title when he went 10 for 153. If I'm Clint Kubiak, the play caller in Seattle, and I've got one of the best, if not the best, wide receivers in football, I'm certainly either going to win the game because of them or lose because he couldn't get it done. If Seattle wins, I think JSN's got a great shot.
RC, who's most likely to lead the Super Bowl in rushing yards?
You know what? I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker III. He's been so big in what Seattle has done here down the stretch. His ability to get explosive plays, work the outside as well, but also being involved in the pass game. I know this isn't the question, but Kenneth Walker can also be one of those names we're talking about as an MVP of this game, and his ability in the red zone will be huge. We saw that come up huge and big against the Los Angeles Rams.
All right, Marcus, who's most likely to be on Big Man Ballin' when we head to Disneyland on Monday?
Yeah, I don't like to separate B&Bs because we all family, but I'm going Leonard Williams. I've seen this New England Patriots offensive line struggle. I think he's going to move around and find the matchups that are favorable for him. And Leonard Williams is going to have to be the catalyst as far as getting Drake May off of his spot, pressuring him as an individual. And he's been doing it all season long, so why would it change now?
We stay on this game to build out a play sheet presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. And for that, we turn to Mina. Mina, let's start with Drake May. Over under 1.5 touchdown passes for the Patriots quarterback on Sunday.
I'm going over, which is a little nerve-wracking because we know how good the Seahawks defense is. But to me, this is also about how good the Seahawks defense is against the run in the red zone. One of the best red zone run defenses in the NFL. I think New England is going to have to throw it. Over 1.5 is not too high in my mind. That's about what Seattle averages, giving up, so I'm going to give it to him.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right, over under 6.5 receptions for Jackson Smith and Jigba in this one.
This is also an over. Everything Dan said about JSN, his impact, his importance in this game holds true. But the other thing I'll add is this. Even if New England puts Christian Gonzalez on him, we're going to talk about that. Kubiak is so good at finding ways through alignment and motion to get Jackson Smith and Jigba opportunities. He's going to have to in this game.
Give us a player you think finds the end zone in Super Bowl 60.
Give me Kenneth Walker, Seahawks running back. I talked about how good the Seahawks red zone run defense is. The Patriots' red zone run defense has not been very good, and Kenneth Walker has been finding the end zone in the postseason. I think he continues to do so in this game. If they get inside the 10-yard line, he's getting the ball.
A $10 bet wins you $38. And on DraftKings Sportsbook, new customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins, and you get 1 month of ESPN on us. Download the app and use promo code NFL Live when you sign up. All right, new on NFL Live, we were just telling you guys how much we have fun with each other. After 6 years together working on this show, Mina learned something new about our guy Marcus this week. Take a listen.
You know what made me nervous about Will Campbell, aside from the tape? I saw this week he said he's afraid of cats. Did you guys see that?
No, what?
Didn't.
He admitted at media night that he's afraid of cats.
Oh, yeah. I am too, though.
What?
What?
You're low.
Bro, cats are. I'm not going to do it.
You got to do
Like
it.
a little house cat?
So I have a rule about things like this. Anything that can be on me and I can't hear it coming, I can't do it. That's why
Like
spiders,
a spider, yeah.
cats are so quiet.
Marcus,
Listen, man.
they're sneaking on you.
Real talk, like people get super sensitive about their cats, so I'm cautious about how I talk about them. I just don't like them.
Cats are the worst pets ever.
I hate cats.
Cats
Hey,
don't.
wow.
Because cats don't need people.
Oh,
Cats
you're
are
getting some
sneaky.
booze. You're getting booze from the crowd.
Dogs forever.
Yeah,
Okay.
like you can't. A cat
Y'all.
is not a pet. You can't own a cat.
Whenever I was little, I rescued a cat that like looked like this cute little kitty. She
great.
was a white cat with blue eyes, but turns out
Turned into the
Yep.
devil.
she was deaf because every white cat with blue eyes
was
can't
deaf.
hear.
What?
And she
Laura,
was peeing all over
Laura,
everything.
real thing?
Laura, that's not a real
That's
thing.
a real thing.
Laura.
No, it's a
White cat
real
with
thing.
blue eyes
Laura
can't hear.
Laura.
That's what they told
That's cat
me.
racism.
What happened?
Maybe it is.
That's cat racism. No, I already know. You can't just.
Is that
you can't
true?
Just make a
I
black,
think so.
It's like a blade.
That can't be real.
That cat's white with
No.
blue eyes. It's deaf. That's
Or
not
see,
a real
cat
thing.
faster
That
than the
is
other
what
cat?
they told me.
I'm not letting it happen.
Dan, stop. All right. Well,
I'm not
anyway,
Not a
Boogie, who told you that?
her name was Snowy, and I loved her.
Yeah.
Poor Snowy
She
with
said
a
that's what they told
poor
me.
Snowy with a blind ass.
No, he was deaf.
It's deaf.
Okay,
ass.
but she would pee.
Now you
I
be.
slept on the top bunk, and my brothers were on the bottom bunk. She would pee all over the top bunk. She'd pee all over my bed all the time.
That
Rolling around
explains
and
so much
catching.
about you.
Here's the thing,
And you
though.
couldn't hear her.
After she pees on
Had no
everybody,
idea.
of course she acting like she can't hear now. You're like, why'd you pee on me? She's like, oh no.
I'm so glad
Learn
you
more
did
about
this.
Laura than Marcus.
I know, that was weird. I didn't plan on
We go
telling
to
that
some
story.
crazy
All right, we got
places on NFL Live, yo.
There's something to look out for as Jeff Darlington joins us now, covering the Seahawks all week long. And Jeff, what have the Seattle teammates told you about JSN?
Well, looking at those stats, obviously we all know how good JSN is. But, spending time here with the Seahawks players, you would not be surprised to find out that he was, in fact, honored with Offensive Player of the Year honors last night. But it's not just about the statistical production. It's also about his influence on the team and his athleticism. And that's something that wide receiver Cooper Kupp did a really good and nuanced job of explaining this week.
I've always believed in this idea of playing at a certain level, and then you're going to drop your hips and lower down when you break, and you don't want to ever raise up, right? So like raising up is your tell, and Jackson's done a great job. It's something I've never seen before. It seems to break the laws of physics, but he just plays at the same level the entire time, even when he's making breaks. It's like a Porsche turning around a corner. It just stays the same way, and he's here 1 second, he's over there the next, and it's pretty cool to watch.
You know, one of the coolest things being around the Seahawks this week is hearing how this wide receiver room talks about each other. You heard Cooper Kupp talking about JSN. Well, I can tell you that JSN also said that he would not be in this position if it wasn't for Kupp's influence on him. Now, Kupp, a former Super Bowl MVP 4 years ago, has been a very quiet leader with these guys. JSN literally saying, like, from an on-field standpoint, from an off-field standpoint, Kupp has been perhaps the biggest influence on him and part of the reason why he is here today.
Just incredible insight there. Thanks to Jeff for the latest. As look at this. We're now 50 hours till Super Bowl 60. That clock will continue to count down. It's going to be here before we know it. And let's continue the conversation around JSN. Mina, obviously, with the ball in his hands, he's so dynamic. But you've noticed some things when he doesn't even have the ball that you wanted to point out.
And I think it's part of why he was such a deserving Offensive Player of the Year, because of the gravity he exerts on the field. One of the stats that I love, on throws over 10 yards, when the Seahawks throw to a receiver not named JSN, that receiver is twice as likely as your average NFL receiver to be wide open, or also significantly more likely to be open, period. So if it's Cooper Kupp or whenever you're watching Seahawks game, you're like, how is A.J. Barner so damn wide open? A lot of the time it is because of the attention paid to JSN. He's also really impactful in the screen game. We've been talking about Walker as a receiver. A couple plays from the ends of the season. This is in the Rams game. So often they run these post-over concepts with JSN. This is a two-man concept. Watch the Rams defensive. Really the entire secondary follows JSN. So you get the little throwback screen. You got a numbers advantage, which of course is very helpful. But in addition to the numbers and the blockers, look at all the grass in front of Kenneth Walker. You can even see the defense. When they see Sam Darnold turn his back, they assume he's going to throw to JSN, because so often Seattle does. Again, this is a couple weeks later against San Francisco. JSN on the inbreaker once again pulls the safety, throw the screen. Again, you have the numbers, but you also have so much grass. This is a big part of why Kenneth Walker has become impactful as a receiver. It's because JSN, and when they're under center, first down play action, they run him so much on those overs and inbreakers. It creates so much space for the other players on the field.
Yeah, I love that tape. It reminds me of a lot of what Andre Johnson used to impact in Houston, Gary Kubiak and Kyle Shanahan. And I remember Kyle often talking about install, and that was the part of the game where he would move Andre in all these different places. Andre would be in the slot. He'd be outside. He'd motion him out to in to out, across the formation, bring him back, line him up in the backfield. And I think what you'll see in this game is Kliff Kingsbury doing that early on, partly to have success, partly to get information.
Yeah.
All right, what are you doing? What's New England's plan? When I move JSN on first down from the slot outside in, what's their call? What's their check? Vice versa and whatnot. And when you hear Cooper Kupp talk about the route running, it reminds me of Isaac Bruce. You know, where the shoulders never go up or down. They're just kind of steady throughout. There's just no idea from a defensive back of, like, what's the likeliest route.
Yeah, I think what I love about what you both are saying is how great players affect the entire football field. If this was basketball, and Swag will understand this, if this was basketball, JSN and Kenneth Walker are constantly in the pick and roll, where they are the focal point, right? Like, they can go into the huddle and say, I need the ball. But everybody else feeds off of them. And so whether it's play action or they're doubling JSN, now Cooper Kupp gets opportunities. And what you have to do if you are those auxiliary players is hit your shot when you get it. Cooper Kupp, when he's open, he makes the third down play wide open against the Ram. He scores this touchdown. Bobo gets the touchdown when he goes on the post, on the corner post to score against Kobe Durant. Like, all of those opportunities, they come fewer than JSN and Kenneth Walker, but you have more of an opportunity to capitalize because you aren't the focal point.
Can I ask you a question? So, can you get yourself into trouble paying too much attention to JSN? Or
I think we're going to talk about what the Patriots have to do to cover him.
So the other piece, in my opinion, it's the ability to move Jackson Smith and Jigba. The fact that he lines up in the backfield, he plays number one, he plays the slot. And also, to me, stacks and condensed splits make it extremely hard to not pay a ton of attention to him because you're always putting him in traffic. When a receiver is in traffic, now you are attracting bodies. And if you look at some of the plays the Cooper Kupps make, the tight ends make when they're wide open, they are late developing in the play because so much attention has gone to Jackson Smith.
I think it'd be really interesting. Just Kliff Kingsbury, Like, what's the answer?
But he's so good in games. Like you think about the Rams game where JSN really didn't do anything in the first half.
Yeah.
And then when you see defenses bracketing him, Kubiak is so good, to your point about moving him around, trying to find ways to get in matchups. And JSN never gets frustrated himself.
Yeah. I think the other piece of it is, too, though, he understands he's going to get his at some point. That's the reason you don't have to get frustrated. It's not even that we have to have you number one in the progression or we have to make sure we call this play for you. It's eventually through the flow of the offense, you'll have your chance. And when he does, he seems to always capitalize. And like Dan says, every route, the stem, the top of the route, they look the same.
And
when the movement happens, you separate so much.
He's so talented. Darnold's 18 completions or 20 or more air yards too, Smith and Jigba, are the most this season by any QB wide receiver combo. And we're going to talk about the Patriots' answer to this. That's coming. Been a lockdown defender this postseason as we talk about how the Patriots can answer JSN on the other side. Opposing quarterbacks are completing just 39% of their passes with him in coverage this postseason, on pace to be the lowest in a single season postseason since NFL Next Gen began tracking in 2018. He's allowed no touchdowns with an interception. He's just been, lockdown's the best way to describe it, right? And Dan, we spoke at length about JSN the last block. What can New England try to do defensively to answer that on the other side?
Yeah, so 1, pass off, 2, palms. And this is something we've talked about. JSN and the crossers start on one side of the field, and this play action or crossing concept. New England is notorious for this. They didn't do it a ton this year, but there's a clip in the Denver game, and this is going to be palms, okay? So that linebacker's responsible for what we call the curl to flat area. This is quarters, so everybody's responsible for a quarter of the field in defense. Those two defenders at the bottom of the screen are playing palms. They're reading that slot receiver. Once that slot receiver outbreaks, it becomes cover 2. The corner drives it, the safety plays over the top. So that's one way where they'll try to have extra bodies on him. The other part is this pass off. When a crossing route happens, the man in coverage passes it off to the safety, he cuts it and goes over the top. The palms thing for me is always from the quarterback's thought. I'm always like, it's hard at times for us, but I always know there's a shot down the field if you're not on the same page.
Well, see, that's the point, though. Like, I'm trying to think about the amount of times I've seen Sam Darnold in Seattle take hole shots, right? The reason that I would love to see palms or love to see 2 safeties high is because I always think it's a great defense for condensed splits, deep crossers. When you look at teams that have had success against Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, a lot of times you've seen them in cover 2 or palms or 2 buster where you're passing off things with people who can see it from high to low. That's why it's so difficult in cover 3. I also wonder what you do with Christian Gonzalez if you ever say, okay, we got to get him more man-to-man. Do you put him on Rashid Shaheed and allow them to be one-on-one or with Cooper Kupp, and then you double team or you play the cloud coverage to JSN? And so now you have an eye on him.
11.
Yeah, double 11, where you could put hands, on him, have someone over the top, and I would never play in and out because he's too good of a route.
How does that change though with him moving? No.
The way that it changes when he moves is now you can just change the sides. The problem is you're never going to be upset, to me, in my opinion, if Carlton Davis has to end up on Rashid Shaheed or Cooper Kupp because it's a change of strength motion. What you never want is for JSN to end up in the man-to-man. That would be the guy that's the second wide receiver.
So for those who don't know, the one double recommendation is really interesting because that's what the Patriots used famously.
Yes. They did it with Darrelle Revis.
And I think it does make sense. It does. I do think, though, Gonzalez, as great as he is, Shaheed can get him with his speed. You remember Marvin Mims, obviously, in the AFC Championship, beat him on the go route. And I also think if they end up playing any form of man coverage, there's here you see here Gonzo. I mean, he just got beat. Like Mims,
but that's been there. That shot that's on the backside.
Exactly.
You can take a shot at the safety. I think this is a little bit more on the safety than Gonzo.
Why you go get Rashid Shaheed and you bring in that speed? Because you've seen this all year. You talked about them cutting the crossers. Teams will do that to JSN. It does create opportunities for the other players. I think with if the Patriots were to play a decent amount of man coverage, which they've not been a man coverage team for most of the year, despite having man corners in Davis and Gonzalez, my concern concern would actually be less JSN, even though I do think he would get his still against Gonzo Forever.
Tight end.
And more about the tight ends, the backs. We talked about Walker, if you can get him on the linebackers in the passing game. This is what's scary about this. As much as it flows through JSN, they do have other skill players who can beat you, and they can also use them to hunt matchups.
That's why the Cooper Kupp being in this game is huge. Just the understanding of space and where to go. I want to get to this New England Patriots defense. We talked about them, and we haven't really locked in on how good they've been. They've been phenomenal as well. Now we talk about what the other teams were missing, so it kind of dilutes that conversation. But there's also within this defense of Mike Vrabel of wanting to keep things in front of him. There will be those open holes in this zone. There will be these opportunities to find space for Drake May and move this football down the field. Excuse me. So you look at this defense from New England, right? And it's about finding where the open spot is. You got this slot on an out route. To me, that's open. Yeah. To me, that is where your eyes need to get to with an understanding of this is going to be getting the ball out of quick. Mina, which lends itself to what you said earlier about this defense. If you can find those opportunities early in downs, sometimes, and then you know this, sometimes the play is called, there's an expectation for your first read, and if that first read is taken away, it's about how fast can you get to those next ones. And I think New England gives you a lot of those opportunities when they play zone. The problem is Milton Williams has been so good at pressing the pocket that you feel some panic before you can find that area. That is how they tie in secondary and pass rush.
Seeing that clips.
But Seattle also has to take a shot on the safeties in the first two series.
Totally agree.
They have played overly aggressive in these playoffs. And it's why they've been able to get breakups on quick digs, on square ends. To me, I'm calling dig and go early on in this game, and I'm not doing it with JSN. I'm doing it with Rashid Shaheed because I believe they will be primed to allow that play to hit and get over the top early.
Dio, do you think there is a level of respect that Mike Vrabel and this staff is going to have for Sam Darnold that he didn't have for Stroud, obviously not Stidham? Do you think anything changes with that mindset based on what this quarterback from Seattle
I have a level of respect for the skill players.
Yes, and I also think the level of respect for the scheme diversity, all the things that you just and you never see Darnold throw the ball from the same spot 2 times in a row. It's 3-step, it's 5-step, it's boot to the left, boot to the right, it's roll behind the guard, roll behind the tackle. I think that's the challenging thing from that perspective.
They just always give him so many answers on first down. I think where you see what you're talking about come to play is if it gets to third down, that's where you start to worry about Darnold.
Totally.
All right, are you guys ready for us to make some Super Bowl picks? Yeah, real. And Marcus, when you look at this game, what's one thing that you think will define Super Bowl 60?
A young man by the name of Dwayne Carter, a.k.a. Lil Wayne, has said, what is a goon to a goblin?
Ooh.
And Leonard Williams is a goblin. and the other side of that is Milton Williams is a goblin, who we haven't talked about enough, who's taken over games for the New England Patriots on the interior. He is doing exactly what they paid him to do. For as much as we've talked about the Seattle Seahawks defensive line, these two interior guys between Christian Barmore and Milton Williams have impacted games as much as anybody in these playoffs. And I think in order for New England to have a shot at winning this game and winning it straight up, those two are who we are going to have to talk about after the game.
I don't know if you can talk about pivotal matchups in this game and not mention the name Will Campbell. Since returning from injury, Will Campbell has truly been an Achilles heel for this offense. And Drake May, the pressure that we've seen created from the left side of the offensive line of the New England Patriots. And if you're Mike Macdonald in this Seahawk defense, you're going to try to get as many one-on-one matchups as you can with the young rookie. And believe me, he is going to be the fish. There are going to be arguments on the sideline of who gets to line up on the right side of the defensive line.
We've been showing you guys explosive Seattle pass plays all week. most of them happen on first down. Under center, play action. Jackson Smith-Njigba running deep on the crosser. They average nearly 9 yards a pass on first down this season, second only to New England Patriots. Milton Williams versus the interior of the Seahawks offensive line is a mismatch, but he might not get the opportunity to affect the game if Seattle is efficient and explosive on first down. When they can create that run-pass conflict, it's when they're the best.
Yeah, going last on this one is outstanding.
Yeah, there you go, Dan. Dan drew the short ball.
Turnovers.
Kickers.
Who can weather the storm? Both of these teams lead the NFL, or tops in the NFL when it comes to first quarter scoring differential. So, like, who comes out and throws the first punch, and then who can kind of punch back? Seattle, plus 79 first quarter, outscoring their opponents in New England, plus 45. So what team kind of takes that lead early on? But if that's the case, what team in that first quarter can kind of throw that counter punch back?
Dan, this is really interesting, but there was a baby that was stealing the show back here. Wait, where's the baby?
Show us the baby.
Little baby.
I'll take the baby.
He's so
Simba.
baby.
Simba.
Oh, Dan. Oh, Dan's got the baby.
Big.
Dan's not going to give the baby back.
Another baby.
Look at the baby like, what the hell?